Good morning and welcome to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. Wow, I got a lot to talk about today. But first, I want to give you some heads up about some changes in the scheduling of the program. So on Mondays, you're going to be hearing my sermon from Sunday. On Mondays, E.W. Jackson for America. On Tuesdays, I'm going to be on with you live. There won't be a program on Wednesdays, okay? Because I'm now doing a podcast for American Family Radio. I'm going to be doing that podcast on Tuesday nights. That's going to take up a good little chunk of my schedule to do that. And I've got to leave room to do some other things, which I'm going to address here in a second. But I've got to leave room to do some other things. And so I'm going to be taking off the program on Wednesday. So there won't be a program on Wednesday. If we find something we can put in, so that there's something filling that space, we will. But otherwise, it just won't be anything. Now, I'll be back. And then on Thursdays, we're going to air the podcast, the American Family Radio podcast. It will be available on Wednesdays on American Family Radio on AFR.net or on the AFR app, okay? It'll be available on Wednesdays. I will not be airing it on my outlets because that program belongs to American Family Radio. On Thursdays, I am going to air it here because once they've released it, they've then given me permission to go ahead and release it on my venues. But remember the way to see it fresh. Forgive me. The way to listen to it fresh, because I'm going to do a video version, but they're going to be airing the audio version. It's going to be a radio program, but I will have the video that I'll be doing and releasing on Thursday morning. So that's what's going to air on Thursday mornings, and then on Fridays I will be back live on Fridays. So I'll be doing the program live twice a week now, Tuesdays and Fridays, okay? But we will be on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Wednesday, right now, at least, it seems like there will be nothing. And I'm going to try this because I've got so many other things I've got to do. So that brings me to the other thing I've got to do. I've given you all a little bit of inside baseball from time to time, so let me give you a little bit now. Our dinner, which was wildly successful. I mean, it was very, very successful. We had some people who we were hoping who didn't show up. So we did, once again, we ran into that situation where we paid for a bunch of dinners that we didn't have to pay for. I'm not sure how we're going to solve that. But the program just went tremendously well. And the response that night was absolutely great. In 2022 and 2023, we had donors step up and say, if you raise $100,000 on the dinner, I will give you an additional $100,000. Okay? And by the way, actually, if you raise $100,000 tonight, I will give you an additional $100,000. So this didn't include what we had raised up until that point. So we met that goal. And the donor stepped up and put another $100,000 in. It was that was the first one we had done since 2019, and it was an absolute stunning financial success. The second year, we had a donor step up and say the same thing, except the donor said, you don't have to raise $100,000 that night, but if you raise $100,000 overall, I will match it with $100,000. We did that. The donor matched it. Great. This year, we didn't have that. We sought it, but it did not appear as it did the first 2 years. I think probably has something to do with the economy and other things, but we did have a donor step up and said, tell you what, I'll give you $50,000 if you get another donor to match the $50,000 over and above what you raise at the dinner, okay? So this is another situation where you got to raise 50 in order to get this additional 50. Well, I couldn't find a $50,000 donor, an additional $50,000 donor. I did reach out and ask people, but I didn't get any takers on that one. So finally, the donor, being generous and patient, said, well, I'll tell you what. If you can find whatever number of donors you need to find, and you cobble together the $50,000, obviously, you don't want to spend time trying to find 100 donors giving, $500 a piece. So I said, well, let me see if I can find 10 donors to give $10,000 each, and so that's fine. Well, I had to really wrestle to do that, okay? I had to really wrestle to do that. I finally did get to that point. But I can tell you that money has not come in yet. And because it's not come in yet, I am still asking. If you can contribute $10,000 and be one of those 5 to help me get those funds in, because that $100,000 additional inflow into the organization that we had the last 2 years, as you can imagine, this time didn't come in. So you know what that means, right? I mean, that's a big deficit. That is a big deficit. Now we're trusting God, and I am encouraged, and we're going on in the name of the Lord. You know me, I don't quit, I don't back down, and we're still looking. But if you're watching right now and you say, Bishop, I've got $10,000, I'm going to send you $10,000 and become one of those donors. If I get more than 5, that's even better. Because obviously, not having that money come in at all has not made things easy. Okay, it's made things difficult. So anything you can do. I sent out a letter yesterday, basically saying anybody who wants to contribute to this is welcome to do so. Anybody who wants to contribute to the matching grant is welcome to do so, because again, the money has not come in yet. Okay, it just hasn't happened. So anything you can contribute toward that will just give me that much more to report to the matching grant donor and say, look, not only did we raise 50, we raised 60, we raised 75, whatever it is that we can raise will be matched by at least $50,000. I'm hoping maybe even if we raise more, the match will grow. So that's where we are right now. Pray for us. If you can contribute right now, please do so. Don't forget, if you sign up as a Patriot Partner for $25 a month or more, I will send you a signed copy of my book, E.W. Jackson, Sweet Land of Liberty. By the way, I got a new book coming out, Indivisible Under God, but that probably won't be out until later this year, maybe early next year, but I got a new book coming out. And I'm going to also offer the second book I wrote, the 12 Principles to Make Your Life Extraordinary. I'm going to offer that book as well. I'll start making that available. Maybe it's a package deal or something, but we're having some more of those printed, because people are always asking, what about your other books? So the first book, my first shot at it, I'm not having that one reprinted. I think the second one sort of captures that and adds more to it. So I think I know I'm going to reprint the second book, but right now I have no plans to reprint the first book. So those of you who got a copy of the first book, you have a collector's item. So, but anyway, that's where we are. Pray for us, okay? Because we've got a real challenge here. We've got a real challenge before us. But I know there's nothing too hard for the Lord, and my trust is in Him. And look at me. I'm not sweating. I'm not worried. I'm not fretting. Psalm 112 says, the person who delights himself in the law of the Lord, his heart is steadfast, trusting in the Lord. That's the way we've got to roll. That's the way we've got to do it. That's the only way to achieve the things that God has for you to achieve. That's the only way to do it. You just got to completely and totally put your trust in Him. And man, I tell you, the rewards are exceedingly abundant above all that we ask or think, even though at times you may feel pressured and you may feel like, oh my goodness, how is this all going to work out? Don't give in to those ideas. Don't give in to them. I had somebody say to me one time, I said, well, I can't afford to become discouraged. They said, well, that seems a little bit hard and cold. I said, no, it's not hard and cold. I said, I just can't afford to be. This was years ago. It's not about where we are now. I said, I can't afford to be. So because if I become discouraged, I discourage everybody around me. I said, and then I start walking in doubt rather than walking in faith. I says, I just can't afford to be. So how do you deal with that? I mean, because I'm a human being and we're all human beings, and I'm not Jesus and neither are you. Jesus did this absolutely perfectly. You and I don't do it perfectly. But as Kenneth Hagin famously said, I can't stop birds from flying over my head, but I can certainly stop them from nesting in my hair. So I can't allow the negativity and discouragement and all that to nest in my hair. I cast down those imaginations and those thoughts that exalt themselves against the knowledge of God. And I bring every thought under obedience to Jesus Christ. I confess what God has said, what God has promised, what God is doing, rather than what the circumstances are that are going on around me. Same way I maintain great optimism for our country. I don't allow myself to become obsessed over what is happening. I'm aware of it, obviously, and I'm fighting against it. But I keep my eyes on Jesus and what I believe he has in mind for us. So I look, just like the Bible says that Abraham, who hoped against hope, in other words, his hope transcended what his eyes saw and his body felt. Who hoped against hope. In other words, he hoped beyond what we would look at and say, well, that's hopeless. He hoped beyond that. And of course, he received the promise of God. That's the way we have to look at the hope. Hope, that's what vision is. Vision is hope. Vision is expectation of something beyond, bigger, greater than what you now have. That's what vision is. And where there is no vision, the people perish. Okay, all right. Enough with that. Go to standamerica.us to contribute, or you can send a check to the address there on the website, standamerica.us, to contribute. All right, let me get into the issues that we got to deal with here. And I took 10 minutes with that, so I've got about a half hour left. So let me get into this. Here's the first thing. I got a big issue I want to talk to you about. Well, they're all big issues, but I want to spend most of my time talking about the politics of the Democrat Party right now, and the politics of the presidential campaign. Before I get to that, I want to mention two things. One is, frankly, I'm godly angry at the way this administration, the Biden debacle, is treating Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu arrived yesterday. He did not have the president to greet him. He did not have the vice president to greet him. He did not have the secretary of state to greet him. Folks, that is an insult. That's like Obama leaving him sitting in the basement of the White House and going up to have dinner with his family and just ignoring Benjamin Netanyahu like he's a non-person. I've been saying for years, the Democrat Party is the party of anti-Semitism, but they hide it very well because they got so many Jews in their party and they get so much money from the Jewish community. They can't just come out and say, well, we don't really like Jews. We don't like Jews. They can't say that, but that's the way they really feel. They don't like Jews. They don't like Israel. And they will use Jewish people as long as they're touting their leftist line, just like they do black folks. As long as you're touting their leftist line, as long as you're bowing and kowtowing to their crazy Marxist collectivist vision for life, as long as you support killing unborn babies, as long as you think homosexuality is a great thing and all this gender confusion and this sexual depravity and recruiting and grooming children into a new sexual identity. If you agree with all that, you think all that's just great. If you love seeing all these illegal immigrants pouring across the border, you think that's just a wonderful thing. If you agree with all that, then they'll pat you on the head and good boy, good girl, pat you on the butt and send you on your way and say, we got you. Don't worry about a thing. We will be your benefactors. You just be a good slave and you go along with us and all will be well. They do the same thing to black folks, Jewish folks, Hispanics, women, whoever. Because they don't care about people. They care about power. and they care about the implementation of their agenda. So if you help them to get and keep power, and you help them to implement their agenda, then you're one of the good ones and they like you. But they really, generally speaking, don't like you. They don't like black people. They don't like Jewish people. They don't like women. They really don't. And we say, well, how can you say that? I mean, isn't that going a bit far? Because when you turn on people with a vengeance and you attack them and try to destroy them, even though they belong to the very group you say you care so much about, what that means is you really don't care about that group. You care about using those people. And when those people cannot be used by you and you turn on them with a vengeance and you unleash whatever destructive power you have to try to hurt them, what that means is you really have no respect for them. You have no affinity, no affection for them whatsoever. They're pawns. And you only show them favor insofar as they can be used. And when they can't be used, you have to crush them. Because they're violating their very purpose in life, which is to serve you. That's why I say, if you saw Exodus Now, the sequel, the Democrat Party is still the party of slavery. And they'll try to enslave anybody they can because they're really a party of Marxism, and socialism and communism are nothing but slave systems. That's all they are. The systems to turn people into slaves of the state or slaves of the party. So this treatment of Benjamin Netanyahu, as far as I'm concerned, just proves what I've been saying for years. I said this about Barack Obama. I said this about his whole team, that they're anti-Semites, but they keep it in the closet. They keep it on the down low, if you will. But when something like this happens, like this October 7th attack, and Israel becomes dedicated to destroying Hamas so that they don't suffer an attack like this again, then you begin to see where Democrats really stand. And you'll see many of them denouncing Israel. They're committing genocide. They're this, that, the other. I mean, even though Israel's warning civilians and Israel's doing everything they can to save the lives of civilians, and Israel right now is sending humanitarian aid into Gaza right now as we speak. Hamas has refused to release hostages, including American hostages, and Israel is still trying to help the Palestinian people to the extent that they can. To the extent that Hamas will allow them, knowing that Hamas believes that the more blood, the better for them. The more their people die, the better for them. They don't, because again, people from that godless ilk who are seeking power, they consider blood to be just another expense. And if you have to shed blood or have to have others shed their blood who are supposed to be on your side or supposed to be protected by you, so be it. So Hamas wants they want the body count to be high so that they can say, see those Jews, see what they do. Well, Hamas is really doing it. I remember these Islamic terrorists saying, we will beat you Americans because you love life, but we love death. Well, they're not going to beat us, but they're right about that. We do love life, and they love death. And they're a death cult. But that's why the Democrat Party is right. And spiritually, they're compatible because the Democrat Party has become a death cult between killing unborn babies. And now, as I've chronicled in America's Forgotten Children, this website right here, all these children that are dying in the inner city as a result of the defund the police movement and all this craziness that these people have forced on these communities. And the police are the problem. The police are the problem. The police are killing black people. And you got tens of thousands of black folks dying. In fact, millions over the years. And we've got, since 2020, innocent children, 641 innocent children murdered since the defund the police movement began. And you can see the spike happen. As soon as that process started, children started falling. Children started dying. Because lawlessness was unleashed, and now the same criminals and some new ones have decided that we can pretty much do anything with impunity. Because the Democrat Party wouldn't send you to jail, man. They're going to pay for your bail. They're not going to send you to jail. They're going to pay for your bail. They want you out. They want you to be able to vote. Because the chaos, the lawlessness, the degradation, the poverty gives them an opportunity to once again tell their lying narrative. It's racism. Racism is the problem. No, they're the problem. These black politicians who are absolutely nothing but step-in fetchits for the Democrat Party, they're the problem. They're the problem. They don't want public safety. They don't want educational choice. They want to kill your unborn babies. They could care less about the lawlessness that happens in the streets of your cities. 641 children murdered. Heard any black politician talking about that? No, because they won't. They don't care. But you let one person get involved, even if it's a criminal, get involved in a confrontation with police and end up injured or worse, dead. Oh my goodness. It's, that's the problem. But the fact of the matter is, and I'm not saying that anybody deserves to be killed unlawfully by anybody, and that includes a police officer. But the thing is, these black criminals and thugs are terrorizing the community and getting innocent men, women, and children murdered. But the Democrat Party is a death cult. They don't care about that. In fact, it's good for them. As long as they can spin it as, well, it's racism, it's the white man. And the blood of these innocent children is now doubly on their hands, because you got the blood of innocent children killed in their mothers' wombs by these sick, disgusting, murderous, degenerate Democrat policies. And now you've got children who are born, who are trying to live, being murdered by a bunch of thugs that they've unleashed on the streets of our cities to go out and rob, rape, steal, and murder. And you can't point that out because you're denigrating black people. Nope. I'm trying to save the lives of innocent, law-abiding black people, including children. And I am willing to call out the criminal class that is doing this stuff and say they need to be locked up. Now, we've got some other solutions as well, but you got to begin by locking up the dangerous people, period. And I don't care about all this. Well, there's mass incarceration. I'd rather have mass incarceration than mass chaos in the streets. So at any rate, I started talking about Israel and the way they're treating Netanyahu. He's going to speak before a joint session of Congress. I understand Kamala Harris is not going to be there. I don't know whether Joe Biden's going to be there. He's got an excuse with COVID. And I don't know whether the Secretary of State's going to be there. I think Biden has agreed to have a private meeting with Netanyahu, I think. But they're not meeting with them publicly. It's he that touches Israel touches the apple of God's eye. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They shall prosper who love her. So these people are playing with fire, which is why they've got to be voted out of office, because they're a curse on this nation. Yeah, I said it and I mean it. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the Democrat Party, and this whole administration is a curse on the United States of America. And that doesn't mean we go out and commit acts of violence. That means we go to the polls and commit an act of political courage and maturity and vote these people out. That's what it means. Now, boy, the left will go crazy over pretty much everything I said, but then that they won't tell people I said that. They won't tell them, because they want to pick the things that make it look like you're trying to stoke violence, and then when you completely denounce violence, they don't ever. I've never had any of these left-wing rags that write about me. I've never had them say, but E.W. Jackson does say violence is not the answer. E.W. Jackson does say he denounces violence and that he's committed to peaceful resolution of these issues. You'll never hear them say that, because they're liars. And they don't want to paint the whole picture. They want to caricature you so that they can tell people, oh, he's nuts. Don't listen to him. He's crazy. Okay. That was, at any rate, this whole thing with Netanyahu. I just wanted to put that out there. The second thing I wanted to say is, well, let me see if I. Yeah, okay. Second thing I want to talk about is this woman Cheadle and this Secret Service debacle. I can be brief about this. It is quite obvious the woman needs to go. I mean, right now, of course, there seems to be unanimity among Democrats and Republicans. Miracles still do happen. And I guess it's because they realize if you start playing with that, that can happen on either side, where you get some nutcase who decides they think it's their mission in life to take out a president, and they could be trying to take out a Democrat president just as well as a Republican president. So I guess the Democrats have not 100% lost their minds, only 99%. And here's the 1% where they still have a degree of sanity. Who knew? The woman needs to go. Democrats and Republicans in this case seem to agree. I don't know whether you've seen pictures of the investigation with people standing on this so-called this sloped roof that presents a safety issue. I'm told the thing is sloped 10 degrees. You can walk on it. And there were people standing on it. Nobody was, oh, we got to hold on, watch it because this is so sloped, you'll fall right on. I mean, what is she even talking about? Well, I'll tell you what the bottom line is, and this leads me to the major issue that I want to discuss. I'm not going to have as much time to talk about as I thought I would, but is this. When you make DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the priority, you surrender excellence, competence, capability as the primary factor and quality that you are seeking in adding personnel. See, you really can't have both. If diversity, equity, and inclusion is your priority, then you've got to lower standards in order to create this utopian diverse world that you think you're trying to create. Right? I mean, you simply cannot have both. But if competence, capability, quality, if that is your priority, and sure, you find people equally capable from diverse backgrounds, you want an agency to kind of reflect the mosaic that is America. Sure, you don't go out of your way just to, well, I want this agency to be all Asians. I want this agency to be all white. I want this agency to be all black. I mean, that's stupid. That's crazy. It's unconstitutional. It's a violation of everything America stands for. You don't want to create racial hegemony. I mean, we don't do that in this country. But quality, excellence, capability, competence, those are the primary factors and nothing else. And then when you have an outstanding candidate who happens to be from a background that you don't have many Secret Service agents, you say, man, this person is really good. And they bring them maybe a new perspective, some new experiences, a different, a cultural background into the mix. Fine, great, wonderful. But you don't say, well, we got to have that. And even though this person is 40% less capable, less competent than this white guy, we're going to choose this person anyway. That to me is a betrayal of everything this country stands for. We should be a meritocracy. And the first and foremost consideration is ability, not race, not gender. Certainly not your so-called gender identity, because as far as I'm concerned, we ought to exclude such people because they need mental help. They need treatment. They don't need to be given an important job like this Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services. What's the guy? Richard Levine. Richard doesn't need to be in charge of an agency. Richard needs to be in an institution somewhere trying to help him get better. But that aside, you almost got a former president of the United States killed. And you don't have the dignity, the integrity. See, well, because I don't think she was hired on the basis of her ability. Clearly not. Because if she was, whoever made that decision, if that's the president of the United States, he needs to be fired. Can't fire him, got to vote him out. And he's not running again for re-election, so he's going anyway. But whoever was responsible, that person needs to be fired because they hired an incompetent who's responsible for protecting the lives of people and almost got a former president of the United States killed because of what I think all of us would look at now and say, because of gross incompetence. I mean, not just a little bitty mistake, but a great big gargantuan mistake. That when you have Americans who are not trained to be protection agents, when you have people with just common sense looking at the situation and universally saying, that was dumb. I mean, it's obvious what should have happened. The so-called expert needs to go. When the expert doesn't see it, that expert needs to go. We didn't put agents up there because it's a sloped roof. It's a safety factor. These are supposed to be the best of the best. People trained, firearms, hand-to-hand combat, protection theory and understanding how you go about protecting a package, how you go about protecting your protectee, all of that. And you don't put them on the roof because the roof is sloped and it might be a safety hazard? Yeah, well, too bad the shooter didn't do that. Too bad the shooter didn't say, oh, you know what? I could shoot him from up here, but I don't want to go up there because the roof is so sloped, it'll be unsafe for me. She needs to go, okay? All right, here's the last thing. Wow. I'm a little too effusive in my comments sometimes, I realize, but, I try to get it all in there. The race for the president has now been turned into a racial conflict. Not because I want that or you want that, but because the Democrats are going to make it that. The Democrats are going to make this about, unless you vote for this incompetent woman, here's another incompetent woman. Women are highly competent. I'm married to one. I know many of them. Women are highly competent. But again, when DEI is your priority, then competence is not important. What's important is whatever identity group you belong to. And Kamala Harris is an incompetent, just as this head of the Secret Service is a complete incompetent. But that's not going to be about that. If you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you're a racist. If you're not supporting Kamala Harris, you're a racist. And if you're black and you're not supporting Kamala Harris, you're a sellout. You're an Uncle Tom. You're an Oreo. You're whatever. And now, look, folks. I got my share of problems with the Republican Party. Not with I got so many wonderful Republican friends who I go to the wall for. But the party apparatus itself, no confidence in it whatsoever. None. I know wonderful people who are part of it. Patty Lyman is our national Republican committee woman here in Virginia, and I love Patty. I think she's a wonderful Christian woman, a warrior, a fighter. Talk about competence. There's competence to the nth degree. So just so everybody understands, I am in no way challenging the competence of women. In no way. But I'm certainly challenging the competence of some of these idiots that these Democrats pluck up and stick somewhere who are nothing but political hacks and idiots. And they stick them somewhere simply because they happen to be a woman or simply because they happen to be black or whatever. Republicans had better get smart. And frankly, I don't usually say this, but I'm going to say it in this case because I think the stakes are so high. They better listen to me. Now, the establishment, generally speaking, since the beginning of my political engagement, the establishment generally has not liked me because I'm a Christian first, not a Republican. My first loyalty is to Jesus Christ, not to the Republican Party. And I'm not playing these little political games. And plus, I have to live as a Christian, and I bring that ethic into politics. So I don't play all these stupid games. I think I may have shared with you all when I endorsed Bob Good, who it does look like is probably not going to be the next congressman. I endorsed Bob Good. I had some very nasty people undermine an event that I had coming up because they were mad at me about that. They'll have to answer to God for that. I don't play those kinds of games because I know I've got to stand before God one day, and I'm not going to say, well, Lord, the only reason why I did behave that way is that was politics. You understand, right? I mean, I get an exception for that, don't I? But then, of course, that's because a lot of people in the Republican Party are not Christians. Some of them even think they are, but they're not. They go to church, but they don't know the Lord because they don't take him seriously, and they don't take living for him seriously. I mean, I could a bit more attack another Christian because they didn't do something I thought they should do politically than the man in the moon. I mean, I'm stand before God and say, yeah, I went after your man of God or your woman of God because I didn't like what they did to me. I didn't like what they did to my candidate. But that's sadly the way the game is played. I'm not playing it because I'm on my way to heaven. I'm not, I'm not putting my soul at risk because of some political idiots, even if they happen to be Republicans, who think they know more than God does and think therefore that they have a right to, play all these political games and do all this nasty stuff, lacking in integrity, lacking in humanity, just do whatever they want to do. Yeah, well, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I will repay. And let me tell you, it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Let me tell you something, folks. For all these people who play these games, I pray for them. And I really do. I mean that sincerely. I'm not, just spewing that. I pray for them because it is dangerous to hurt a child of God. I don't care what the reason why you're doing it. You may think it was just politics. That's dangerous. And I mean literally dangerous. It really is. I'm not playing that game. So I just want to put that out there to say, I don't put my absolute trust, fealty, loyalty. If the Republican Party is, please. Republican Party will turn on a dime. And if it weren't for Christians in the Republican Party, sadly, predominantly white Christians of European ancestry, the Republican Party I think would turn on everything we believe in. I don't think the Republican Party would take a stand on life. They wouldn't take a stand on marriage. I don't think the Republican Party as a whole would take a stand on anything were it not for Christians demanding it and knowing that they need the Christian vote in order to succeed politically, nationally, and in many districts. So I was going to share this with you. There have been 3 occasions in my life, 3 occasions, where people tried to really, really hurt me badly. I mean, really tried to hurt me badly. And not for anything wrong I'd done. In one case, it was because I had something that they wanted and they were trying to figure out a way to take it from me. So they hurt me badly. In fact, really, that's 2 of the cases. And well, the 3rd case is kind of similar. You know what? All those people are dead. Now, don't get me wrong. God's not my personal hitting man. God didn't. He's not. God's not going around killing people because somebody did something wrong to me. So don't think I'm saying that. What I'm saying is, the Bible says, whoever offends one of these little ones who believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about their neck and that they were drowned in the depths of the sea. Paul said, pray for those who, Jesus said, despitefully use you, but Paul was saying something similar. He said, and it is like praying down hot coals of fire on their heads. Because basically when you're praying for people out of sincere love, and then they just rebel against God and they're out to do all this kind of wickedness, all they're doing is accelerating their own demise, because you reap what you sow. So that's why I'm not playing those games. Other people want to do it. That's they've got to answer for that, but I'm not doing it. You know, probably one of the factors why, you know, people like me are not as successful in politics as perhaps we could be, because I can't be Machiavellian. I've got to be Christian. And that's the way I'm going to do it. I don't care where it leads. Because I know in the end, that's true victory. Because I'm playing for eternity, not for this little temporary period of time people have on this earth. And for the short-sighted who play it that way, big mistake. So the Republican Party better listen to me on this. The Republican Party better start making the case to black Christians why they should not be supporting Kamala Harris. They better be making the case to black Christians why they should not be supporting Kamala Harris. Because here's going to be the narrative. The first black woman is going to become president of the United States. In fact, one politician, the governor of Maryland, already said, we need to tell Trump that the presidency of the United States is a black job. I'm not making it up, folks. You look it up. He actually said it. We need to tell President Trump that the presidency of the United States is a black job. Really? I thought here, little old me thinking it's an American job. It's the top governmental job in America. I'm thinking it's a job for Americans. Oh, no. Already they said, no, it's a black job. Look, I've got the formula. We did this in 2016. We did it in 2020. We're doing it in 2024. We're not getting the level of support we've gotten in past years. I think the economy probably has a lot to do with that. But Kamala Harris ascending to the nomination, I mean, to tell you the truth, I've got a super PAC called Stand America PAC. You can go to the website, standamericapac.us. Money ought to be pouring into our PAC right now, because we've got a project called Save America, Elect Donald Trump, in which we're focused on Christian voters. And I still have them saying to me, well, why should we vote for Donald Trump? Donald Trump did this and Donald Trump said that. And yeah, well, here's why. And then I'll lay out the case. And black voters. Because black voters have been moving in Donald Trump's direction. But I guarantee you, folks, you talk about the race card being played, Barack Obama played it. Oh, my goodness gracious. It's gotten worse since Barack Obama. I think we are going to look at racial politics at a level we've never seen it before. Because they need, if they can get 95, 96, 97% of the black vote, if they can get black voters registered who have not voted before, because we're going to elect the first black woman president of the United States. If they can get black women to suddenly, oh my goodness, we've got to do it. Get all these two-bit jackleg black preachers, and not all black preachers are two, and most of them are not, but there are many jackleg preachers who will do whatever the Democrat Party says, happily bend over and kiss the Democrat Party's backside if that's what they're told to do. You get all of them across the country. We've got to support Kamala Harris. She's a sister. We've got to support the sister. God is moving. We've got to get out and take advantage of this historic moment to elect a black woman president. And the Republican Party does what they've done in the past, sit on their hind parts and not listen to somebody like me, while the Democrat Party is going to be listening to Stacey Abrams and her ilk. Look, between racial demagoguery and election fraud, you better not take anything for granted. So if you're an active Republican, you know Republicans, you go tell them, hey, you need to talk to Bishop E.W. Jackson. You need to support what he's trying to do to reach black voters and Christian voters as well. Because, of course, as a pastor, I'm trying to reach Christian voters and make sure that they understand that their conscience can be clear in voting for Donald Trump. I'm convinced that God's hand is on Donald Trump, and God wants me to vote for Donald Trump. I'm convinced of it. Now, there may be others who don't share that conviction, but I'm convinced of that. And I know all of his flaws, and you've heard me talk about, I've got criticism. I don't agree with Donald Trump on everything he says, everything he does, but I'm convinced that God wants me to vote for Donald Trump. And I'm going to do it without any pang of conscience whatsoever. And folks, I know I got to close, but I cannot imagine voting for a baby-killing, racial demagoguing, a crime-encouraging degenerate, in my view, like, not to mention an intellectually challenged Kamala Harris, because she's black. I'm supposed to surrender all of my rationality, all of my logic, all the facts, all of my Christian principle, and I'm supposed to vote for her because she's black. You know what that is? Idolatry. That's exalting racial identity above Christian identity. I'm a Christian, first, foremost, and always. And I'm going to vote based upon my Christian values and principles, not based upon some kind of presumed, artificial, concocted, conjured up witchcraft, racial identity that's supposed to supersede everything else. I'm not, here again, no. I'm not, I'm having none of that. I'm going to stand before God one day, and I'm not having any of that. So that's it. I've got to stop because I could continue on with that. We got to get Donald Trump elected in order to save this country. We've got to blunt the racial demagoguery that's coming down the road, and we've got to help Christians understand that it is a binary choice. Donald Trump is an advocate for, a supporter of, supported by, espousing a lot of Christian-based principles and ideals, and Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party are espousing none of them, because Donald Trump is representing at least a God-influenced vision, and Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party represent the vision of the Antichrist. Their vision for this country is demonic. It's an easy choice. God bless each and every one of you. I will be back with you live on Friday. You'll be able to watch my podcast for American Family Radio on Thursday. And I will be back with you live for a program again on Friday. So it's always wonderful to be with you. Stand up. Go to standamerica.us to help us with that $50,000 matching grant. And check out check out our website, America's Forgotten Children. I think it's one of the most powerful things we've ever done. But check it out. 641 murdered children. It's ridiculous. Stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Because we are on God's side. God bless everybody.
something that said, take a look what happened. Take a look what happened.
Checa até aí.
I see something that said, take a look what happened.